Hey, I think we're live. Michael, hi, how are you?
Great. Good morning, good afternoon, and
Yeah, and good night, I guess, depending on where you're at. It's 1 p.m. here in New York. So what, 10 a.m. there in Los Angeles? Is that right?
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right, we just started this webinar. This is going to be a conversation between you and I about, I don't know, your investment thesis and what attracted you to Waverly Labs. And we're going to talk about our company a little bit. I think we're going to wait just a couple more minutes here. And we'll start maybe in 1 or 2 minutes. And the entire webinar will last, I think 30 to 45 minutes, something like that. We'll play it by ear and we'll allow some of the attendees to ask questions. But yeah, we'll just start in a second. So if you want to get your cup of coffee or anything ready, then now is the time to do it. I'm here at New Lab. Actually, this is where we work out of. This is backwards, but it says New Lab.
Very fancy.
It's a it's a beautiful hardware co-working space here in Brooklyn. So, well, they don't really call it co-working; they call it interdisciplinary. I don't know why they want the word co-working, whatever.
Co-working better, but
yeah, I don't know, but it's a cool space. We have a little loft here. That's why you can kind of see the open beams and kind of the open space. It used to be where, and I could probably point up a little bit. It used to be where they so this entire space used to be where they built the engines, I believe, for the submarines and battleships during World War II.
really.
Yeah, so it's a converted, factory basically here in the Navy Yards in Brooklyn, New York. So it's a really fun space to work out of. It's interdisciplinary, like I mentioned. It's basically co-working, but it's a lot of hardware companies. We're in wearables. You have a lot of electric bicycle, or you have some electric bicycle companies, electric motorcycle companies here. What else? Wearables, like I mentioned, like us, and robotics, things like that, drones. So it's a great space that we were able to get our hands on. It's actually very difficult to get in here these days, but we were fortunate, and they have prototyping labs and stuff. You've never actually visited the office, though, have you?
No, because you don't have you're always in a different place.
well, I'm usually here.
Yeah.
And Sergio's usually here, and he just moved back to New York actually after being in Mexico for a few months, or I guess maybe even a year since the pandemic. Yeah. So we're beginning to come back together here in New York. But we've been working remotely, and actually working remotely is kind of the norm these days. And we'll get into that here in a few minutes, and we're going to be able to talk about how we've been able to leverage our technology as a leader in voice and language products to kind of enable that remote experience. So let's jump in. I'm Andrew. Thanks, Michael. So I'm Andrew Ochoa, the founder and CEO of Waverly Labs. We are a voice and language. We're a tech startup here in Brooklyn, New York. We focus on developing voice and language products for professionals and teams. We were founded in 2016, roughly. And introduced our first product called Pilot Smart Earbuds, which were the world's first translating earbuds. And then in 2019, we introduced a new product called Ambassador Interpreter, which I don't have on me, but it is an over-the-ear machine interpreter that's designed really for professionals and teams, and really focusing more on that prosumer user and businesses and enterprises in that field. We had some major milestones. We just crossed $10 million in lifetime sales this month. It's very exciting for us. Thank you. We're really excited about that. We're going to blast it all over social media and our investment campaign. As we should, yeah, absolutely. We are raising, currently we're raising investment through the community. We are a private company, but we're raising under this new regulation called Regulation A or A+, which allows us to raise up to, well, quite a bit. We're raising up to 10 million. We've done 1.2 million to date, and collectively, through our raise, we've done 3.5 million in investment. So I'm here with Michael Casella, one of our lead investors who has an accomplished background. I'm going to introduce you right now, Michael. Michael Casella is the founder and managing director of Partnership Capital Ventures, which is focused on early stage startup investments and actively guiding and mentoring founders. Michael was a member of the early founding team and the senior vice president of operations at Green Dot Corporation, which was a Sequoia-backed, which was a Sequoia-backed company. Sequoia, a very popular, a very renowned venture capital firm out of Silicon Valley. So that's quite an accomplishment. While at Green Dot, Michael had the unique advantage of actively contributing to the company's growth from private company to public company, being a part of the team as a startup, and as the team and the company moved from startup to seed to series to pre-IPO, IPO, and then post-IPO, which is quite an accomplishment. Eventually, when Michael and his team took Green Dot public, it achieved a $4 billion valuation. Currently, he serves on the board of directors and the advisory boards of Petrio, Coins Technologies, and us, Waverly Labs. So, Michael, thanks for joining me on this web conference. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited to be part of it and supporting this next phase in Waverly's growth.
Yeah, great. I want to make sure I can hear you pretty well. I think we're good. Okay, so yeah, we're going to jump into some questions to learn more about you and your background, and really, what inspired you, what attracted you to wanting to lead the investment round here at Waverly Labs. So I'll just start right there. What first attracted you to the idea of the work that we're doing here at Waverly Labs?
So, one of the positives of my career is that I've been able to create a firm which has the ability to kind of pick and choose where we invest, and looking for legacy building, really strong teams that are going to create a difference globally. And so I've always had a personal passion for language. I love to travel. I speak a few languages. And really this breaking down the borders of communication. And as you meet new people, and I've always wanted to be able to speak to them in their own dialects. And you can only learn so many languages at one time. And so I found Waverly online during I think it was your pilot campaign and your original product. And I was so intrigued by it that I think, I jumped on a plane and flew out to the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas and had to meet you and Sergio. So that was great. And from that, I think the real key was that I felt that you guys had a lot of passion and technical know-how and drive, where you didn't feel like you were working. You didn't have a job. You just got up and did what you loved and created an excitement and passion. And I knew I'd met that team that could change this industry.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I do remember you coming out to CES. I think it was in 2020, right before the pandemic. And I kind of remember you, carrying your backpack and walking around the floor and asking, talking to Sergio and then talking to George or Georgi, our main, our senior software developer, and then eventually making your way to find me. And actually, I think you came back a couple of days. Like you went to day one and then day two, and came and met with us a few times, if I remember correctly.
I had to wait in line. You guys.
We were busy at that conference. It was I think that's when we introduced Ambassador, actually, the new product, and we were at a lot of like presentations, and we won like best of show and an innovation award, and I don't know, a plethora of other things. So we were really busy, which was great, and then the pandemic hit, and then so we kind of all sequestered into our apartments and our caves. But I do remember you coming out there. We are really passionate about language and voice, and like you said, you can't learn every language, right? But what languages do you think you face on a daily basis, or like let's say a weekly or monthly basis in your personal life or professional life even? Was there like a specific experience that you have?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, so was a lot of Spanish spoken, and growing up, my best friend was Latino from Mexico, and I couldn't speak to his father because he spoke so fast. And even though I learned it in school, I really couldn't get that specificity that I needed. And so I lived in Spain and learned Spanish and came back and could talk really fast. And so I've done that, a little other languages, some French, Italian, but yeah, I love language and getting to know people in their own dialects.
Yeah, we do too. We do too, obviously. It's not just about the technology, it's just about the passion of language and voice, to be honest. We love working in hardware, we love working in language, we also like working in voice, and voice is, you know, is immense opportunity right now. But let's move on from that. What are there certain market trends that you're seeing that lead you to believe in the increase in demand for our products in the future, whether it's language or voice or something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I met you guys, you were doing wearable technology primarily. And since then, as you said, it's been COVID and other stuff. And so there's a whole new potential, I think, for this business, in addition to what you've already started, from remote communication to work from home. Online communication platforms are coming up every day, meeting with teams and businesses, you know, conferencing systems, e-commerce as a trend, in warehousing technology, and just in general, this challenges in the global economy of a global workforce create a really big need to solve a language barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. All of those industries and sectors are ones that reach out to us. I mean, we've been at the forefront of this space for 5 years now. Have honestly like over 50,000 customers that have either purchased a product from us directly or have inquired about working with them in some way across the spectrum of industry of the market, whether it's like hospitality, tourism, and travel, which are the ones that come to people's minds immediately. And then, as you mentioned, manufacturing, we just signed a contract to do some testing with a major, probably one of the nation's largest furniture manufacturers. And so that just happened this month, and it's a small bit of testing, but we start small, and then testing goes well. We sign large letters of interest and move from there. So manufacturing and warehouse. Another interesting sector that we get a lot of inquiries from is education and training. I don't know if you knew that, but we do get a lot of interest from like teachers, principals, administrators, anywhere where you have like these work sessions. If you think, we did a tour, we were doing a trial with Amazon, with Amazon warehouse, one of the warehouses. And if you can imagine those areas where you have like the supervisor who needs to communicate and train new staff who might not speak the language. So we have a lot of those industries and sectors that are reaching out to us, really across the entire spectrum of business, as you can imagine. But to talk about what you just mentioned as well, working remotely, like what do you forecast for that? What do you think about working remotely and these kind of like conferences, international conference sessions and things like that, virtual environments, when it comes to language and voice for that matter?
I think it's interesting because when we first met, there wasn't COVID and there wasn't this workforce heavy push, and a lot of companies were a little bit hesitant in enabling, work from home or work from where you want. And I think that honestly, it moved that whole perspective from enterprises to go from remote workforce leapfrog a decade in progress. And so I think that that hesitance they realized wasn't necessary, because you could still offer flexible hours, flexible locations, and still have activity, and you'd have to sacrifice that. So I think that trend alone is a huge boon for positive impact for Waverly Labs. And as you guys are, while you have a wearable technology, physical good, core competency is the voice and speech and language ecosystem. And think about being able to deploy that into non-face-to-face spaces, interaction, marketplaces, gatherings. I think there's a huge demand. And I think that now with, your borders being removed, which is really what your goal has been as a company, is to have, language without borders. And I think if you think about opening that up, you've just expanded your marketplace. And so I'm really excited about it because I think that it introduces a whole new line of potential for Waverly Labs. It wasn't even concepted in your original 50,000 customers and 10 million in sales.
It wasn't a part of the original plan, right? But you go where the market takes you.
Yeah.
And I think you're hitting, the nail on the head. There is a lot of interest internally within the team when it comes to the like the remote and the virtual sessions. We just had a conference call about this yesterday. We're actually going to be working on we have been working on some new products and services to kind of begin augmenting and complementing our our array of products that we have out in the market. We're gonna we have some new things that we'll be debuting this summer. As a matter of fact, by the end of summer, let's say August 30, September 1, we'll be in beta with a few new products and services, and we're really excited to share that come this fall. But you're right? You go where the market takes you. This COVID has completely accelerated this virtual work environment, and our core competency is in voice and speech and translation. And so it's a prime opportunity for us to begin testing those services.
I think it's really interesting because, what I love is the way you guys think about it. You go where the market leads you is a wonderful thing to hear as an investor. It means that you started with a great concept and you learned that you had to pivot and you seek advice and guidance. And that's really why we're so excited to invest in Waverly, is the founders and the team. And, you can have a great product, but you have to have the right mindset. And you guys, as you say, hit the nail on the head there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I have a list of questions. I want to make sure I get through all these as well, including some of the questions that we had come in from us before the call was set up from prospective investors. So we could talk about that topic all day, but let's jump around a little bit here. I'll go to the next question I had on my list. We kind of touched on this. How do you think COVID has impacted the global landscape? Do you see the remote trend spurred from COVID having any implications for Waverly Labs going into the future? I guess it's the same thing that we've been talking about just now, right? Like the virtual and remote environments, and how do we bridge those language and barriers in those spaces?
I think the key there too is that it's, you can work in one country to support another country's product, but you can also now with Waverly Lab Solutions do it at a fraction of the cost, right? And better quality, better, specificity on language relative to what's available in the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. One of the benefits of being an international team, let's say one of the benefits of being a team in the language space and the voice space is that we're very international by nature. Everyone on the team speaks another language to some degree, and so it gives us a chance to test those new languages and those new opportunities internally before really test it, right? Not using outside contractors, but just test it like drinking our own Kool-Aid, if you will.
You got your own global footprint yourself, so of different ethnicities and backgrounds and language, and that's great.
So are there certain markets or industries you think we should be pursuing over others?
I think you kind of hit on it. I mean, we've always chatted about the fact that you guys have a really good sense of where the marketplace is going, and are, kicking the pavement to see what other opportunities there are. And so I think that clearly the education and training is key. Hospitality is kind of where that original business travel tourism piece started, I think, on the Waverly Lab journey. But there's also, major events and other such gatherings that are not just physical now, they're also virtual. And I think take whatever industries you're focused on and you add the virtual side to it, you've just many X your potential customer base. Yeah,
I think that's a good idea. International conferences, virtual conferences, right? These are great opportunities. Maybe one day we can sponsor the Olympics or something like that, and be able to build out their language services. But that really is our core competency, and that would be a great alignment to those international events and things like that, festivals or whatever it may be.
I love how big you're thinking.
Yeah, well, Olympics is pretty big. Um, so here's another question. How greatly did the Waverly Labs founding team factor into your decision to invest in the company, and why?
So, you know, what's interesting is ideas, in my view, are ideas unless you have a capable team leading the design and implementation of them. And there's an adage in investing that you're investing in the founders and not the company. While you need to have a viable business, the idea is that if you have a company with the right idea and without the right team, it's not likely to. And so when I looked at the fact that you guys are very strong and capable and more importantly, innovative founders, that's where, I think when I met with you and Sergio and the entire team that I've met thus far, I see that. And that's really, whether it's your first product or your 26th product, you're going to end up having success, right? And
Yeah,
that's why we're in it for the long haul.
that's great to hear. Most of us have been working together for 5 or 7 years now. And you just put a lot of cohesion when you're doing that, especially when you're working on a startup, right? I mean, the ups and downs, like, you can wake up like with the highest high and then you go to bed with the lowest low. And you kind of need that team to lean on and be able to pick each other up. So I agree. I think team is very important.
Absolutely.
I think there's a good adage, right? I think it's some of the major investment theses from some of the accelerators out there. They look at 5 things when they're deciding whether or not they want to accept you and invest in you as a startup. And the first thing they look at is team. The second thing they look at is team. And the third thing they look at is team. And then they look at product market fit and look at product idea. so yeah. Let's see. Another question here that we had. This is a bit interesting. What do you like about Andrew and Sergio, and the co-founders? What do you think their biggest strengths are as entrepreneurs?
So, it's interesting. There are certain characteristics that I really, enjoy seeing in founders. And so, you guys have a wonderful, flexible, yet focused mindset. So you're open to input and advice. At the same time, speed of execution and quality of work is paramount to you guys. And not just being another product, but being the best in the business and innovating and leading and dealing with roadblocks, right? And your ability to build bridge to a solution where a lot of people can't pivot. And, you continue to pivot as economies are shifting. And, I think the other piece is, you're hiring very smart people and you're not telling them what to do, right? You're giving them the dedication to allow them to leverage their passion and add to the team. And I think that sometimes, founders can come in and kind of have a very set mindset and not be flexible and hire smart people and tell them what to do. And that's really not going to lead to long-term success because you have to be more than just Andrew and Sergio as a company. So I think that I really see that you have the ability to build that whole ethos as a company.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Sergio and I, we complement each other very well. He's more tech savvy and product savvy. I focus more on sales and business and partnerships and things. But we collaborate really well. There are times when he has to go to China and under normal conditions and oversee manufacturing, and he's just like kind of inaccessible for 3 months or something, right? While he's working on the factory floor when we're in production, and so someone has to pick up the slack on this or that, and so the same thing happens vice versa, right? If we're at an event or some speaking in Sergio and I might be offline or unavailable, Sergio picks up the slack. So I think we really complement each other well, and we do our best to hire the best people and not tell them what to do. I think that was one of Steve Jobs' famous quotes, right? Like we hire smart people to tell us. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire them to tell us what to do.
Yep, exactly.
So what is the biggest challenge facing the business, and how do you see Waverly Labs overcoming it?
So, I think right now, you guys are in the physical, wearable space, and that's run into consumer electronic companies globally, right? Have had supply on chip semiconductor space, just due to the fact that with COVID, demand, and staffing and manufacturing was kind of uncertain. And so now you have a big push of companies wanting to, resurge from COVID even stronger with higher demand. And they're struggling to hire workers and, they need to find a better global footprint. So I think you guys have seen that, but you've also, you've been around enough now that you've established really good supply chain relationships with your suppliers and your partnerships. And I think that, when it comes to getting support from your partners, they're looking for companies that have sold tens of millions of dollars of product and who can continue to innovate and buy inventory in advance and other things. And you guys have been able to do that. While at the same time, I think, the core of what you offer isn't necessarily a physical wearable. It's the language and the technology and the software and all the, intellectual property behind that you continue to move forward regardless. So I actually don't really see a need to overcome as much as you guys continue to pivot. So you just continue to expand your options.
Yeah, all good points. We've been in this space for at least 5 years now, and we've built this great network of suppliers and distributors that can really advocate and help us when we're trying to find components and chips, and even just looking for some engineering advice, to be honest. But really, when it comes to designing and engineering and manufacturing and assembling a hardware product, while we are in the midst of a global pandemic where there's now a global chip shortage, it becomes very difficult as a hardware-centric company. So we have started to, as you put it, look at a core competency in speech and translation and trying to diversify those services, not be so tied to hardware and facing the same problems that like Apple is facing right now, which is a chip shortage.
Right.
Yeah. What's that? I lost on.
With the struggle on chips, you can have a struggle on chips too.
Yeah, it's everybody, right? It's like it's Intel and it's Qualcomm and it's Apple and it's the global chip shortage. The good news is we've been able to lean on our network, and we have tens of thousands of units being produced this winter. So that's good. But in the meantime, let's start augmenting our services, and let's really focus on our core competency in speech and translation, and see what else we can put out into the ether over the next couple of months and get the feedback, especially right now while the market's hot for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just a quick note here for anyone who's viewing this, the attendees, if you hadn't had a chance, go to our campaign page. It's www.startengine.com/Waverly. From there, you can find all of our campaign information and make an investment, secure your opportunity to be a part of the team, learn more about the company as well, of course. And if nothing else, just follow us. There's a follow button there on the campaign page where you'll be kept in the loop and get our weekly updates and our sales figures and all that kind of stuff that we share via our investment community there. So again, startengine.com/Waverly.
That's great. And what I love about this is if you see the minimum investment, anyone can participate in your growth. And I think that resonates with your mission of, breaking down borders. So I think that's also really exciting for everyone checking it out.
Yeah, absolutely. We did want to make it as accessible as possible to everyone, not just the, accredited investor who comes, who writes a, $50,000 check. Okay, let's be respectful of everyone's time here. So we have a few more questions that we'll go through. Tell us about your investment thesis. How seasoned are you at investing in technology companies?
We have actively participated, and are invested in anywhere from consumer packaged goods to services, software, and fintech for over 2 decades. And, continue to learn every day. And I think the experience and some of the successes that we've experienced have allowed us to focus on, legacy-based solutions, right? The goal is to help leave something in the future, they say leave the earth better than you found it. So help the generation for years and decades to come move forward and experience these amazing technological advances in their lifetimes, which we may build, but it will continue to grow when we're not here. So I've enjoyed the space for many years.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Love that. That's okay. I think that was the last question that we had. But I did see that some came in via chat. I can't see the chat right now. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Go through a few of these while we have a few minutes left. I think we've covered some of this. Michael, why did you invest? Maybe they might have come in late. Maybe you want to reiterate that.
Yeah, I think we touched on that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? I can restate that, but I think that as you look at the opportunities of language, there's going to be a world without language barriers. It's going to happen. It's a question of when and who. And I feel that Waverly's really positioned as that technological leader in the space.
Yeah, cool, love it. I mean, we think we're a technology leader in the space. We're definitely the first mover. We have, like I said, 50,000 customers, a lot of inquiries, trials with some of the major players in the industries of hospitality and tourism, and travel and manufacturing and education for that matter. So yeah, I appreciate that. Let's see what other questions we have that came up here. Have we considered creating a proto language that natural languages could all translate to as a way to enhance workflow? That's interesting. There are certainly some interesting things happening in NLP and NLU, natural language processing, natural language understanding. I don't have anything that off the top of my head that is a proto language, a lingua franca, if you will, maybe English or something. But that's an interesting question. Think about it. I'm very excited to be an investor in the startup, and as a traveler, I find the product great, innovative, and useful. Great. Thanks so much, Mike. Morgan, really appreciate that. And let's see if there are any other questions here. Is there plans for a future IPO? Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we want to create ROI and returns for all of our investors and shareholders, and so that includes looking at every opportunity available to us, acquisitions and partnerships and mergers or IPO, of course. We are looking at some opportunities right now to be able to list on a trading market in the near future. So we are having those discussions with our broker dealer and other partners. It's very, and Michael, you went through an IPO, right? So we can even talk about this. It's very, what's the word? It's a very delicate process. I mean, it's highly regulated, enormous amounts of paperwork and financial reviews. Maybe you want to touch on the experience that you had going IPO?
Yeah, I think, having an idea that others want to invest in and then seeing that come out and give value to all the potential, to investors, public markets is exciting, right? But at the same time, you mentioned it, there's a lot of paperwork and focus around, IPO roadshows and other things. And there's always the question of where does the company's CEO and others spend their time? Do they spend most of their time, preparing for an IPO, or are they working on innovation? And there's always a right timing, right? You can never quite time the market, but when it's there, it'll come. But I don't know that there's also a need to force it, because continuous, you've shown through crowdfunding, you guys are continuing to grow, and so you're looking at creating market capabilities. And so as you look at that, it's something that I would that is taken and very serious when you're ready to go there.
Yeah, you have to be ready as well, right? It's a lot of diligence, but you've been investing in startups now for quite a while now. I mean, it takes time for a startup to get to that stage as well, doesn't it?
It does. We were probably 7 to 10 years. Typically with 7 years, but let's call it 7 to 10 years. An idea to, if the stars align, we can go public. And But, I've been in companies where we went public, we had a great stock price, and then we went really low, and then we went really high, and it's just really, so
Yeah.
you can't really look at the day to day. You have to focus on really continuing to build the company.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Focused on just keep, we really are trying to maintain our focus on the brand and the work that we're doing, and enhancing the services and the products that we are really just serving our customers. If we can make our customers happy, then we'll make our investors happy. That's how we see it. And startups are, it's kind of like a long process before you get there. But I would say we're on the right path. We've been doing it for a few years. We're the leader. Like I said, we just crossed 10 million in lifetime sales. We have 50,000 customers. We have trials and partnerships with large global organizations that we've been testing, and we're enhancing and augmenting our new services, which actually is a good segue to the next question we had here in the chat. How do you get from 10 million to 100 million? And that's interesting. So it took us, I think, 3 years or so to get to 4 years, maybe, to get to 10 million in lifetime sales. And so how do we get to 100 million? I really think that, augmenting and our services and our products beyond just hardware is going to be a great pathway to do that. Obviously, we have to keep reinvesting into R&D and enhancing the service, the voice capabilities and speaker diarization, or the spatial filtering, and all of the mimicry and the characteristic the speaker characteristics that we're working on. But hardware is difficult, and it's certainly a tough space, especially when you're faced with things like global chip shortages. And that's why we're looking at some of these new spaces, whether it's virtual and remote services, and other areas where we can begin building some of those recurring revenues, right? Those monthly subscriptions and things like that. Just, new revenue streams that will really enhance our let's say, the lifetime value of every customer that we're able to acquire. Would you agree?
I would. As an investor, I think about recurring revenue, right? It's something that you can predict.
Yeah.
The investor is comfortable. But you're, more importantly, lifetime value, right? What additional services and offerings can you give to your core base? What else do they need, right? Building a solution for them, tailored to them, right? And I think that's really what you're focused on.
Right. Creating an ecosystem, if you will, and providing them an array of services that they might need to use in their personal life and in their professional life. I mean, I haven't bought a new iPhone in, I don't know, 5 years or 4 years. I don't need to buy a new one every year. At some point, it's just got good enough. It's got good enough for me. But Apple makes great products, and so I keep going to Apple for the same stuff. And so my lifetime value to them is just like, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars or something like that, whatever it is. So yeah, I think we have a lot of customers from this spectrum of industry, and building machine over-the-ear machine interpreters has gotten us to 10 million. To get to 100 million, we really need to start diversifying our portfolio, and that's what we're working on right now. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be releasing some new products into the market, services into the market for testing, and we'll have an opportunity to show that off to the investor community in the fall.
I think one thing that I point out to that question is 10 million, given the last few years of COVID and other challenges, quite an accomplishment. And so I think that 10 million has a lot more opportunity just on the wearables, not even before we enter the new channels. And so I think that, the path to 100 million seems, a lot of, opportunities to get there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's not like, hardware isn't broken. The opportunity for hardware is still there. People still need machine interpreters. Like we're just scratching the surface. Yeah, we're just scratching the surface. So I'm really excited about some of the new features that we have coming out for the ambassador, as a matter of fact. And if you're not following us, make sure that you are following us on our social media and our blog, because we push those updates out every month. Let me see what other message chat inquiries we had here in the chat. So I know that the ambassador headset helped me with my travels when I was fishing. Somebody just 1 second. I was watching something. Somebody changed the screen. I know the ambassador headset helped me with my. Okay, somebody keeps. Is your screen also going full screen?
Yeah, it's changing a bit, but I think it was a great comment here. Is you know, from Joshua that, you know.
Okay, there it is.
When I finished my father-in-law in Thailand, right? So when he's fishing there.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Joshua. Really interesting. Love that. And we do support Thai, the Thai language. So I'm glad it worked out for you. We'll go to the last question here, and then we'll end the session. Are you thinking about licensing the product to like boats? Yeah, so we are actually thinking about that. We are looking at. We've had conversations with some very large, you know, billion-dollar multinational corporations that make headphone products or other kinds of products like that. So we've had those conversations, and I think those conversations will pick up again now that we're kind of coming out of quarantine. But we've had those conversations with some of those large manufacturers. So it is something that we're actively exploring, and yeah, we're definitely taking every opportunity to you know, to use our core competency in partnership with some of these major headset and headphone manufacturers. So thanks, Paul. Great question. And I think it's the last one that we had. So great. It's been about 45 minutes, Mike. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to give you an opportunity here to you know, to summarize anything that you mentioned. If you want to you know, want to conclude our session with anything specifically.
Absolutely. By the way, I love the question. It leads to powered by Waverly Labs, right? That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, you know, from my view, with regard to Waverly Labs, you know, we are dealing with a highly capable leadership and technology team. There are barriers to entry, given how far you guys have progressed in language accuracy. I think that's what amazes me is the, you know, how specific the language and accurate it is, and you can take nuance and intonation and things that others have been unable to do, and put intellectual property around there, which strengthens your company.
Yeah.
And your hyper solutions focused approach to developing products with real market driven needs, right? You take a lot of feedback from consumers and businesses and really your customers. And I think, you know, you're already generating solid revenue. You're at 10 million, 50,000, you know, users, select inquiries, you know, and you haven't even hit, you're just getting started. So what I love about this is, you know, this is a great opportunity to get on the ground floor with Waverly. And you guys have already, I laugh, it's the ground floor at 10 million and annual revenue run rate, but you are getting started. And so it's kind of rare to have the opportunity to join a company at a low investment entry point. I really celebrate you guys for taking this approach. I know there's lots of ways to raise capital and you haven't had any struggle with that, but I think this, you know, crowdsourcing and really making, you know, creating a solution for users everywhere. I see that, you know, Waverly Labs is a much higher level of achieving success than others. And that's why we continue to invest and reinvest and are here to support Waverly and really anything we can do to help drive awareness of the Start Engine raise. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We really appreciate that. It's you know, quite wonderful to hear seasoned investor and accomplished executive talk speak about us and our work and our team like that. So we really appreciate it. And to those of you in the chat, Stephen Sursa, you know, thanks for helping. Thanks for being part of the journey. Yeah, thank you. And Miles, the cost too. You're an investor. We love having you as an investor, and you love languages. Yeah, that's great. We love languages too. Just to sum up this call here, if you're if you're not following us or you're not invested yet, go to startengine.com/Waverly, where you can make an investment starting at about $500, basically $496. We wanted to make the campaign, the investment opportunity, as accessible as possible. You can also follow the campaign from that page if you're not following us already, so that way you can be kept in the loop with updates in terms of sales figures, revenue, or new product launches and product features and the like. So definitely follow at the very least if you're not already, so that way you're not you don't miss out on anything. The page again is startengine.com/Waverly. Yeah, that's correct. And there are a few perks on there depending on the size of the investment that you make. I think starting at 1,000 or something like that, and all the way up to 10,000, you make an investment over 10,000. Some of those perks include things like, free products or bonus shares. I believe that there's some there with bonus shares. Depending if you make a certain investment, then you get an additional amount of shares that above what you would otherwise be purchasing. So definitely look at those perks on there on that campaign. And I think that's it. Michael, we had a great call here, man. I just saw you a few weeks ago in Los Angeles. It's always a pleasure. We appreciate your mentorship and your advice. So thanks.
We got Brooklyn pretty soon here. I want to
check
workspace.
Okay, do it. Come. I might not be here, but Sergio will be here, and George will be here, I think. So, but you got to come and check out the space at the very least while you're in town.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. To everyone joining as well, I really appreciate their time, and I think this is a tremendous opportunity for people to join the Waverly Revolution. So.
Yeah, Waverly Revolution. I'm gonna make some T-shirts. Okay, thanks everybody for participating and viewing. And Michael, thank you again. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us via email or through the campaign page where you can leave comments.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.